Into the breach, siblings. I often refer to you as siblings, and I realized when writing this phrase in my sermon that I've never really explained why. I don't call you sisters and brothers, I call you siblings. So I'm going to tell a story that I hope will kind of explain a little bit of this. I have a friend who recently came out to the world as gender non-binary. When I say recent, I mean within the last couple of months. Siblings, I do not understand it. And because this is a person I trust to understand my intentions as pure and loving and good, I reached out to her to talk about it. My response to this coming out as gender non-binary went something like this. I love you, and I am happy you are discovering more deeply who you are and how to be who you are. And I want to know how best to support you in this. I will admit I do not understand it. To me, you will always be Julian, and your gender has nothing to do with that. What are some things that will change about how I should understand or treat you, given this new information? And her response, I really appreciate you reaching out and talking to me about it. I'm still the same person I was, but I now understand that I do not feel more feminine as my biological gender would expect, nor do I feel masculine. It is something in between. I will continue to be married to my husband. He and I have talked and worked through this, and we will continue to, and we appreciate your friendship and support, and we love you too. I'm telling you this today to say I do not get it. I am a woman who has been friends with this other woman, Julian, for several years. And I also need you to hear this now. It does not matter that I do not get it. I do not have to get it. You do not have to get it. I may never get it. But what God does call us to do is recognize this breach that is there and to go into this wilderness where we don't get it. Rather than trying to get it, I am called to love Julian for who she is or who they are. Still hasn't figured out pronouns yet, so I don't know either. I am called, you are called, we are called into this wilderness we do not understand. And we are invited to love each person we pass along the way. No matter what color their skin is, no matter what their hair looks like, whether it's short or long, curly, straight or wavy, red, black, blonde, black, brown, pink even. No matter what gender they do or do not identify as. No matter who they find themselves falling in love with. No matter how much money they have or what kind of house they live in or whether they even have a place to live. God is calling us to go into the wild and wander there and to learn, like Jesus did, how to be God's beloved in a lonely wasteland. These coming weeks, as we journey through the season of Lent, we will be journeying through the wilderness together. As you heard the litany this morning and had these wilderness elements placed on our communion table as you look around and see the different elements of the wilderness adorning our sanctuary. Some of you were here Wednesday night as we began this journey in food, fellowship, art, and worship together. Some of you were here Saturday night as you put together more of our wilderness art and adorned the sanctuary with them. All of you are here now as we enter into this wilderness that, like for Jesus, shapes our identity and our call. A wilderness where we are also invited to fail and get it wrong. This wilderness is a place that can be isolating and dangerous. But Jesus teaches us through his own experience in that wilderness that we can be beloved and unsafe at the same time. In the words of Debbie Thomas, a writer for the lectionary and the calendar that we follow in the church year, the love that survives this wilderness journey is flinty, not soft, salvific, not sentimental. Learning to trust this love takes time. So, siblings, I invite you into the wild this Lent. God invites you to enter into this time recognizing the world's brokenness, recognizing the breaches, both in yourselves and in the rest of the world. God invites you to be tested, to question and doubt, to be sculpted and cured and fired into beautiful vessels for God's love, and to recognize the struggle in fellow journeyers of this vast wilderness and respect every person, no matter how different they may be from you or from me. I invite you to hear the words of "The Wilderness is a Place of New Life, Resilient Life" by pastor and poet Sarah R. Reflect on these words as we enter this wilderness, each searching for our own way forward, each wrestling with our own belovedness and our own loneliness and lack of safety in this broken world. But all the while trusting God to be right beside us, to be present with us, to be there in the wilderness with us. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and listen to the words of this poem now, and then we'll have a moment of silence and close the sermon. I used to think the wilderness would never end. I called my mom and asked, "Does time really heal all wounds? Do the pieces ever fall back into place? Does the wilderness go on forever?" So she told me about the horizon. She said, "There is an edge where the earth meets the sky. And when you're there, you will see daisies in the sidewalk and the sun after the rain." I asked her to draw me a map, and she cried because she knew this road was mine to walk. But she promised to wait for me, day in and day out, for as long as the wilderness raged. So I walked. And it felt like 40 days, and it hurt like 40 nights. And I waved to the people I passed there in the wilderness. We tipped our hats to one another, silently recognizing the weight we each carried, until one day I realized the earth always kisses the sky. And this wilderness has turned into a garden, and I have made it out alive. And my mother hugged me there at the earth's edge, and she whispered in my ear that God was that gardener and that I had nothing to fear. So if you ever ask for a map, knowing that God and I will be planting seeds, hoping to turn your wilderness into a garden. For as long as the wilderness rages on, I will never stop looking for you where the earth kisses the sky. I invite you to take a deep breath into your diaphragm now. Breathe into your belly and breathe out. Amen, siblings.